Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we are going to talk about gaming podcast. So to understand about it we are going to read an article on medium.com. So without wasting much more time, let's go and read this article out. How to start a gaming podcast. Wondering what you need to start a gaming podcast. Here is a guide to everything you need to consider. I'm an avid podcast listener, from narrative stories, inspiration, and discussion to game updates. I've spent the last few years consuming podcasts of all subjects. I've previously started a podcast on marketing, music, and I'm currently planning the next podcast. But honestly, I'm yet to start one on gaming or esports. Shocking. P.S. Hey, while you're here, we write lots of guides on Twitch streaming here, not the. Let's skip that. What is your podcast idea? You can start a podcast about anything you want, and it could change every week depending on what game you are currently enjoying. But will that appeal to a listener who may not be interested in all of these games? For example, if you played and discussed Warframe in episode 1 and then in episode 2 you talked about The Sims, it's unlikely that they will stick around for episode 3 unless they have an interest in all of these games. At the start, it is best to be specific. You could always consider a talk show where you review the newest games released, the last esport competition, or the patch notes from your favorite game. Invite somebody as a guest or even as a co host to keep your talk show interesting. At least build your podcast around a theme, such as how Final Games built their show. They interview somebody within the games industry about their favorite games and if they had to, which game they would play for the rest of their life. Consider a video podcast too. There are a large number of podcasts which are recorded video first or on a Twitch live stream and then edited into podcasts at a later date. This comes with naming the podcast once you know what you are going to be discussing on a weekly or monthly basis. Then you can start brainstorming ideas for names. As with anything creative, there are no rules. Do what feels right to you. Learn and adjust based on how you develop your sound and feedback from your community. Software and hardware. Now I could go into a lot of detail here, but I'll keep it simple as you can create a quality professional podcast with very little equipment. Microphone. Similar to the equipment we recommend in our guide to software and hardware for streaming. But due to podcast audio only nature, it's worth considering something better and sadly more expensive. Editing software. There is a lot of free editing software for beginners such as GarageBand, Audacity, and Adobe Audition, as well as more advanced software, for example, Apple's Logic Pro, Pro Tools, and Hindenburg. Apps. Consider using an app such as Anchor or some video editing software like Adobe Premiere Pro or Apple's Final Cut. Hosting software. There are a good number of podcast hosting providers. These include Blueberry, Spreaker, Libsyn, SoundCloud, Buzzsprout, Anchor, Mixcloud, Podbean. There is a great guide to podcast hosts here, so let's skip that. Before you wonder, iTunes does not host your podcast. It takes an RSS feed from one of the above host options and lets people listen and subscribe to it. Many other apps and websites use the iTunes feed to pull your podcast into their own service. There are many other listening apps that you need to submit your podcast to these include Stitcher, TuneIn, Acast, Castro, Downcast, Podcast Go, Pocket Cast, Overcast. Uh, let's scroll down to get the key points of this article. So, think we've scrolled a lot. We have to read some more to understand better. Okay, do it alone or with a co-host. I added to this in because I and Joybridge had a long conversation about the benefits of working with a friend of going it alone. Are you somebody that can talk to yourself for hours? Do you know your subject matter in depth? Will having a partner in crime improve the conversation? What do you need in a host for a podcast? Are they interested and passionate about the podcast topics? Do you have a good chemistry with them? Are they somebody you can talk to and love with regardless of the subject matter? Do they know their subject matter? Would you consider them somebody who's an expert? Do they have a good working ethic? Will they help you research future topics and questions for interviews? And etc. So that was the article about gaming podcast. So I hope you've understood everything about it. So it's time to end this video right here. So we will meet in the next video. Till that, bye bye. See you all. Love you.